Welcome to the 2015 A Day of Service, a day on, not a day off program presented by the Arkansas Martin Luther King Jr. Commission. You are at the largest celebration honoring the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
Oh, say can we see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
The Pledge of Allegiance will be presented by Harrison Downs.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, thank you and good welcome once again to our town. Before I start my prepared remarks, I had a chance this morning to appear on a radio show, or talk on a radio show. I guess you don't appear on a radio show, you talk on a radio show. And I was asked the question, what exactly does the Martin Luther King Day mean to me? So before I read my prepared remarks, let me just say the comment again that I made this morning earlier. Many of us in the 1960s remembered some very tragic days. John Kennedy, Robert Kennedy, Martin Luther. I can tell you as a person of the 60s, where the 60s had an influence, it made a mark. There was many unstable days and worrisome days about what was happening to our country. Fortunately for all of us, each one of those individuals gave and stood for something that ultimately did something better. And that's one of those things we're able to celebrate today, is one of the things that came out of the loss of Dr. Martin Luther King. So on behalf of the City of Benton, it is certainly my distinct honor to welcome all of you to the Arkansas Martin Luther King Jr. Commission, everyone in attendance today to our beautiful city, our beautiful new event center, for a day of service. Although the City of Benton is over 30,000 citizens now, we still maintain and try very hard to be a small town atmosphere where most people know your name and sometimes you wish they didn't. We're truly a community that is a family and family focused and giving, minded in the true Southern tradition, because we are a city with a heart and we're happy and proud of it. We considered it an honor to have our neighboring communities join us in celebrating and and all the fellowship for this occasion. Today, we will remember the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King by not only the performances and presentations that will take place, but also by the community service efforts that will take place later today. It warms my heart to see what can be accomplished when we all come together in the spirit of benevolence and goodwill and fellowship. I'd like to take this time to thank everyone who helped to make the event possible and those in attendance today for assisting us in continuing the legacy of the great Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who once said, "Life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you going to do for others?" Therefore, I proclaim this day that we do great things for our community and do something good for those around us. As your host city, I'm very pleased to present the proclamation which has already been read at our city council meeting into the record, so I won't read it again. And I'll close with these words, which have always meant very much to me, and when I had an opportunity 2 years ago to speak at this event. I'd like to quote Mr. Fred Rogers from the Mr. Rogers Neighborhood. You know, we live in a world in which we need to share responsibility. It's so easy to say, it's not my child, it's not my community, it's not my world, and it's not my problem. Then there are those who see the need and respond to do something, to make a difference, to make a change, and they are our true heroes. Welcome to Benton, Arkansas, and enjoy your day.
Thank you so much, Mayor Mattingly, and we're certainly having a great time here at the Benton Event Center. How about you? Wonderful. The Benton Event Center is definitely beautiful. At the White House Rose Garden on November 2nd, 1983, President Ronald Reagan signed a bill creating a federal holiday to honor Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. King Holiday was observed for the first time on January 20th, 1986. And so today we hear reflections and celebrate the life and achievements of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Each year on the third Monday of January, we celebrate the birth, the life, and the dream of Dr. King. It is a time for the nation to remember the injustices that Dr. King fought, a time to remember his fight for the freedom, equality, and dignity for all races and people, a time to remember, celebrate, and act a day on and not a day off. The King Holiday is the celebration of equality, the celebration of freedom, and the celebration of the life of a man who had vision. A man who, in his final speech on a stormy night, knew in his heart that he would not make it to the mountaintop, but he dreamed of a world where generations would someday continue his dream and continue to strive to reach that mountaintop. The national holiday honoring Dr. King is an occasion for joy and celebration for his life and to work toward nonviolent social change in America and the world. And so we encourage you to use this occasion as an opportunity to enlist your community in community service. By doing so, you will establish a lasting, living monument for honoring Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who would have been 86 years old today. Well, he's a legendary broadcaster and Little Rock native from today's THV. You know him and you love him. The King Commission proudly presents a friend of the King Commission, broadcasting legend, Mr. Craig O'Neill.
Hey, Tiffany, where are the bikes? Yes, I've got on my J's. I got on my J's. I may be a 64-year-old white man, but I got on my J's. I'm wearing the J's, baby. That's all I bought. I've made that man so much money you would not believe. And he has never once sent me a thank you note. I'm wearing his J's. I wear his boxer shorts. I got his haircut. Actually, I wanted to be a football player more than anything in the world. Show of hands, how many wanted to be a Razorback football player more than anything in the world? When I was a kid, I would go out in the side yard and play football by myself. I would throw my own passes, I would score my own touchdowns, and I would even do my own slow motion replays.
I got you, sucker.
Actually, I'm here to give away bicycles. Show of hands. Kids, how many kids here have never won anything before in their lives? Show of hands. Wow, we got a bunch of losers here today, so. I have 3 questions about Dr. King. Now, Tiffany, I see the microphone set up. Do they come over to the microphone or do they come up here? If I pick you to come up and answer the question, you have to answer the question in front of all these people. But if you're right, you win an all-expense-paid trip to Bryant in the back of a pickup with the farm animal of your choice. All right, raise your hand. Kids, raise your hand. This is for a bicycle. This is for a bicycle that's parked out front. I'm not kidding. Raise your hand. Our lovely Miss Teen Promise, we promise, Miss Teen Promise, who, by the way, has the highest crown of any beauty queen in the state of Arkansas. You know what they say? Oh, there's one of the bikes. I would suggest we give this one away to a child 6 years or less. Are there any kids 6 or under here? Any kids? Or 7 or under? 7 or under? In the back. All right? Maybe 8 and under. Here we go. I want to know what year, no. Who is Dr. King's wife? Who is Dr. King's wife? We've got a cheerleader jumping up and down in the back. Come on up here. Come on up here. Y'all, come up here. There she is. Isn't she cute? Wait a minute, y'all. If she's wrong, y'all come up here. All right. Who is, oh my gosh, they're shrinking. That one's about Wally Hall size. Who is Dr. King's wife?
Coretta.
Coretta is right. Wait, guys. What is your name?
Taylor.
Caitlin, you get, which one should she get? Which one, Tiffany? Her choice? You are the first one. Oh, get that girl's bike right there. All in favor, say aye. All right, kids, second question. What year was Dr. King born? Raise your hands if you think you know. Here's a kid right up here. He's fast. Ladies and gentlemen, what is your name?
Stacy.
What?
Stacy.
This is Stacy. Ladies and gentlemen, Stacy, what year was Dr. King born?
1929.
1929 is right. Stacy, pick out the bike of your choice. There you go. I have 2 bikes. I don't know, Stacy, what about that one? Oh, that one's perfect for you. There you go. I have for a kid, I have a scooter and a small bicycle. A parent can win this and give it to the kid of their choice if you want to, but this one's tough. This is for adults who want to give the smaller bikes away. Who or what was Dr. King's favorite dessert? What was Dr. King's favorite dessert? We've got him in! We got him in! Ladies and gentlemen, a wrestler on the WWF circuit. No, just kidding. Craig O'Neill. All right, Larry, what was the name? What was Dr. King's favorite dessert?
Well, it's one of 2, but this crowd will quickly recognize it was peach cobbler.
Yes, peach cobbler! you get your choice of bikes to give away to the child of your choice.
Well, let's see. How about two more? How about this one? Thank you. Thanks for answering. You're welcome. Thanks, Craig. Thank you, sir.
Oh, this is a tough one. This is for an adult to help a kid. You have to answer it on the mic, an adult or a kid. When Dr. King spoke in Washington, D.C. in 1963, who was governor of the state of Arkansas at that time? Who was governor of the state of Arkansas when Dr. King spoke in 1963? Here she comes, ladies and gentlemen. This is a big moment.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. All of them right. All them forwards.
Orville Faubus is right, you are, ladies and gentlemen.
You can pick the scooter and the small one, or that one, or that one.
Okay, we're gonna take that one now. Who we gonna bless with that?
You can give that to the person of your choice, to the child of your choice. We have two left, Tiffany. Two left. This is for an adult.
Do I take it with me now?
Yes, you can. In fact, you can ride it home if you want to. Who was president of the United States when Dr. King gave the famous speech in Washington, D.C. in August of 1963? Who was president of the United States? Here she comes.
Dwight Eisenhower.
No. You have to give me a bike. You have to give me a bicycle. No, wait a minute. Here she is. She looked it up on the phone.
No, I didn't look.
Oh, okay. Oh.
Hi, Craig. Now you owe me an apology.
Okay.
Lyndon
I do
Johnson.
owe you an apology. And who was it?
Lyndon Johnson.
Lyndon Johnson. No. He was vice president. Yes, we got a kid. It's a kid. What's your name?
Jaden.
Who?
Jaden.
Jaden? Who was president?
JFK.
JFK! Your choice. That one or that one? That one or that one? On Dr. King's famous mountaintop speech, we have one bike left to give away. Dr. King's famous mountain bike speech in Memphis, Tennessee, or mountain bike speech, that's good, Craig. It is today. Why was Dr. King in Memphis? Why was Dr. King? Oh my gosh. The woman is, hey baby, are you married?
Yes, I am.
Man, your husband's walking around like this.
Yes.
All right, why was he in Memphis?
He was in there because of the sanitation workers.
The garbage strike, that's right. What is your name?
Gloria Atkinson.
Ladies and gentlemen, Gloria Atkinson is your champion today.
What I win this go right.
You win one of the last two to give to the person of your choice. All right, finally, name one of Dr. King's other speeches. I've mentioned two. Can you name one of Dr. King's? Look at this man. From Mablevale, is that right, Mablevale? What's your name?
Cameron Lee.
Cameron, what name of speech?
I have a dream. Something.
That was it. Cameron, you win that little bike right there. Thank you all, ladies and gentlemen. I will leave you with this. I was raised in South Arkansas in the 50s, in the Jim Crow era. In 1958, I saw Mahalia Jackson on the Dinah Shore Show, and she sang, "I've got the whole world in my hands." It affected me as a 7-year-old boy. It touched my heart. And from that point on, from Mahalia Jackson on, the arc of my life changed. In 1963, when Dr. King gave the great "I Have a Dream" speech, his speech was bombing. It was going nowhere. He was reading off a text and people were looking at their watch. They were stirring. They were wanting to go. The speech was going nowhere. It was hitting a dead end. And a woman on the stage leaned into him and said, "Martin, tell him about the dream. Tell him about the dream, Martin. Tell him about the dream."
From that point on, he told them about the dream. He ad-libbed the entire rest of the speech, the greatest speech, one of the greatest speeches in the history of the United States. And it was all ad-libbed. And the woman who told him to tell him about the dream was Mahalia Jackson. She was in touch with the Spirit. She knew that he had not touched people, but she knew how it could be done. Know how it can be done. We love you. Thank you.
At this time, we'd like to introduce our panelists. We have Mr. Deshaun Scarborough, Executive Director from the Arkansas Martin Luther King Jr. Commission. We have the Honorable Governor Asa Hutchinson. And also, we have the legendary Emmy Award-winning star of The Young and the Restless, Mr. Eric Brayton, coming to the stage. Just miles from the steps of Central High School, where the Little Rock Nine enrolled in school, the dream of equal rights continues by the Arkansas Martin Luther King Jr. Commission. In 1993, the Arkansas Martin Luther King Jr. Commission was established by an executive order from former Governor Bill Clinton and signed into law by Governor Jim Guy Tucker. The Arkansas Martin Luther King Jr. Commission coordinates the observance of Dr. King's holiday, in addition to promoting the ongoing legacy and philosophy of Dr. King across the state of Arkansas. Since its establishment, the Commission has worked to promote principles of nonviolence, racial harmony, and understanding throughout the state, along with increasing awareness and appreciation of the civil rights movement and advocating the principles and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. for all Arkansans. We've organized several marchers from across the state, making Dr. King's dream relevant to today's generation. In addition to the 2015 A Day of Service, we produce creative quality programming throughout the year and throughout the state. The Arkansas Martin Luther King Jr. Commission helps plan for the future and build the systems necessary to achieve new goals. Furthermore, our programs encourage understanding of the value of racial and cultural diversity, offering the next generation of Arkansans the opportunity to embrace Dr. King's values of love, cooperation, and acceptance among all people. In 2008, the commission was restructured, and Mr. Deshaun Scarborough was appointed as Executive Director of the Arkansas Martin Luther King Jr. Commission. Mr. Scarborough was one of 110 applicants. However, as God and a greater assignment would see fit, he was paired and appointed with attorney Phil Kaplan. Mr. Scarborough's drive to reinvent the agency came from people saying it couldn't be done. Under the direction of Mr. Deshaun Scarborough and Chairman Kaplan, $700,000 has been raised for programming. Under the leadership of Mr. Scarborough, the Arkansas Martin Luther King Jr. Commission has risen out of the ashes of turmoil and discord of the previous administration to soar to great heights, becoming one of the most respected commissions in the United States, honoring the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King. Touring the state with great programming such as the Nonviolence Youth Summits, a summer mentorship program for students entitled LEAD, the introduction of the first license plate dedicated to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in the state. It will be available in February. The first license plate honoring Dr. King. The Arkansas Martin Luther King Jr. Commission strives to make Dr. King's dream a reality for today's generation of young dreamers. There are 13 King Commissions in the nation. The Arkansas Martin Luther King Jr. Commission is the top commission. Other commissions contact the Arkansas Martin Luther King Jr. Commission for direction of programming and ideas. At this time, we are honored to present the Executive Director of the Arkansas Martin Luther King Jr. Commission, the visionary, Mr. Deshaun Scarborough.
Welcome to Benton, Arkansas! Are you happy to be here? Are you happy to be here? All right, do we have an exciting lineup for you? I need help. I would like for the Buzz 103.7 to help me out, RJ Hunt and Roger Scott. Come on up on stage for me, guys. Give them a round of applause. All right, so it's time for roll call. What I want to do now, RJ, yes, sir. Guys, what we want to do is we want to see if Benton, Arkansas can raise enough noise for us to bring the governor out. Can we do that? I think this side's going to be louder. Can Benton, Arkansas raise enough noise for me to bring the governor out? All right. I need this side. Give me some t-shirts. Noise for us? Yes, they did. All right, you guys give yourselves a round of applause. All right, guys. Are you ready for a new day in Arkansas? And why is it a new day? Because if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got. Give yourselves a round of applause. All right, so in science, 46 is the atomic number for palladium. The number 46 is a very significant number. The human body has 46 chromosomes. In Japanese language, 46 is used as a greeting. Several routes through the world are labeled Route 46. The number 46 also represents Arkansas's 46th governor. Let's hear it for 46. As Executive Director of the Arkansas Martin Luther King Jr. Commission, it is an honor to introduce the Honorable Governor Asa Hutchinson. This is one of the first events during his first 100 days in office. And I would like for you to know that he has been supportive of the Arkansas Martin Luther King Jr. Commission, being gracious enough to support several of our events by attending in person or sending representation to do so. Now, Governor Hutchinson has practiced law all over the state of Arkansas for 21 years before being elected to the U.S. Congress in 1996. He eloquently spoke in Northwest Arkansas to the constituents at our Nonviolence Youth Summit in Harrison, Arkansas. He discussed his work as a U.S. attorney prosecuting hate-based organizations. Governor Hutchinson has made significant strides for our country in the war against terrorism and national security. In the wake of the tragic shooting at Sandy Hook Elementary School, he led a task force that came up with comprehensive planning to address the safety of our children in the schools and prevent such shootings in the future. Now, he has served as our state and country successfully as a congressman. He championed efforts in election reform, ultimately leading to public funding for private elections and primary elections, and easier access to the polls. Now, in addition, he was an early supporter of the outpatient treatment centers for our veterans in Arkansas. and he concentrated on greater highway funding for the state. He has also served our country with excellence as the director of the Drug Enforcement Association and the first Secretary of the newly created Department, Homeland Security. Now, last week I had the opportunity to attend the inaugural church service at Emmanuel Baptist Church in Little Rock, Arkansas. And I watched ministers gather together to pray for Governor Hutchinson as they acknowledge that he has a great job ahead of him. Now, we all need to support him and lift him up in prayer as well. And in meeting the governor, one can tell he is a man of faith. A man who has hit the ground running and has not looked back. I know his needs as much support as possible for the next 4 years, and we want to come together and go out into our communities and circle encouraging support for the governor as he carries the state in a new direction. Today, he stands among us as the 46th governor of the great state of Arkansas. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't want to see anybody sitting down, everybody on your feet, as I welcome you and ask that you join me in welcoming the 2015 Day of Service. Stand for our Honorable Governor Asa
Listen, I'm delighted to be here. Thank you to Sean. Thank you for that great welcome here in Benton. Mayor, you put on a pretty good show for us, and I want to express my appreciation to Eric, who you'll hear from later. I enjoyed our conversation in the green room, and it's great to be able to show off Arkansas, to be able to show off our spirit, our history, our vision for the future. And thank all of you for being here today. I was sworn in as governor last week, Tuesday, so you're looking at a newly minted governor. And as Dushan mentioned, we did kick it off with prayer. We had a wonderful prayer service. I had 3 former Baptist ministers speak, and I told them they ought to speak 10 minutes apiece. And I want you to know that a miracle kicked off our administration, that all 3 Baptist ministers stuck within the 10-minute time frame. But it was a great day. It was a great day of celebration. And we had a special singer from McGee, Arkansas. His name is D.C. Washington. D.C. Washington, and he lives in Springfield, Virginia. He is a great singer of our national anthem that is recognized across the globe, and he sings for the Washington Redskins football at FedEx Field. And I brought him back to our inauguration, both at the Capitol and at Emmanuel Baptist, and what a great tribute, an example of what we offer here in Arkansas in terms of talent that has been now exposed to the entire world, and what a great asset he is for Arkansas. You know, I am pleased after a few days as governor, I've only issued 2 proclamations. And one of the first proclamations I was able to sign as governor was to recognize this day as the day that we celebrate the history and contribution of Dr. Martin Luther King. Now, everybody got fired up getting asked questions, so I'm going to ask you some questions. And this is a word association, because every holiday that we have in America is associated with something. So, what is Thanksgiving associated with? Giving thanks. What is Easter associated with? Eggs, and probably some would say the resurrection. What is the 4th of July associated with? Fireworks. And of course, I am so delighted that the celebration of the history and the contributions of Dr. Martin Luther King is associated with a day of action. That is what we want to remember this day as. I had the privilege of serving the United States Congress. And it's fun being in Congress because you get to know people that come from all different paths of life. And one of the individuals that I got to know was Steve Largent, a former NFL football player. J.C. Watts, a great American played for Oklahoma, wound up the United States Congress. And on down the list of people with different backgrounds. Well, one great American was John Lewis. John Lewis represented Atlanta, Georgia. John Lewis in 1963 was with Dr. Martin Luther King whenever he had the March on Washington and when he gave his great I Have a Dream speech. And John Lewis was interviewed years later about that speech and said, "What do you remember about that speech?" And he said what he remembered about that speech was that when it was over, you had to do something. You had to act. You had to be engaged. You could not sit back any longer. And Dr. King, through all of his life, did something. He caused people to make a choice. He caused people to act and to make a decision. And that's what great leaders do. Great leaders inspire people to act, to make a choice. The greatest leaders that we have are not always the most popular leaders. Now, I think back, I served in President George W. Bush's administration. And there was a point in time when he was very unpopular. He was making tough decisions and it caused him to be unpopular. You look at President Obama. You can agree or disagree with his leadership, but he has caused people to make choices and to act, and it has caused his poll numbers to go down. History will judge whether these are good decisions or not. But this is a day when people are reminded to make choices, to be engaged, and to act for the good of our country and the good of our state. Another great leader is Jesus. And you know, when Jesus was here on earth, he was not that popular because he made people make a choice. Whenever he was speaking to the religious leaders, in the book of John it says the people were divided because of Jesus. The guard said no one ever spoke the way this man speaks. And he caused a divide. He caused people to make choices. He called people to action. And that is what Dr. Martin Luther King did. The principal of Catholic High in Little Rock, Steve Straisley, he wrote a letter to his students just the other day in preparation for the students getting ready for this celebration, this holiday celebrating Dr. Martin Luther King. And the letter says, Dr. King does not need you to honor him. What great men truly want is for their lives to inspire action. Get into the game. Don't be a bystander. That is a good word for us today. And as governor of the great state of Arkansas, I call upon you and the state to engage in action for our leadership, for our future, and for the next generation. In my inaugural address, I talked about this being a new day in Arkansas, a new day of action. And whenever you look at Arkansas, people of Arkansas want to work. And whenever you work, you ought to get ahead in life, right? And when you work hard, you ought to move up that economic ladder. That is what Arkansas is about. That is what freedom is about. That is what equal opportunity is about. That's what we need to accomplish. And so I want to accomplish things as governor, and we need your help. We want to put people to work. We want to create jobs for our future. We want to have a middle-class tax cut that gives us fairness in tax and more money in your pocket to spend. And guess what? We want to have computer science in every high school in Arkansas. Whether you're in the Delta or whether you're in the hills, we want you to be offered computer science so that you can have the best paying technology jobs of our future. How many of you know how to write computer code? How many of you would like to learn how to write computer code? If it was offered in your high school, would any of you take computer science? Raise your hand if you would take computer science. Well, I hope that number increases because there are great job opportunities with that. We want to engage in job skill training. These are some of the things that we need to do. And let me tell you some of the greatest words in Dr. King's speech. His I Have a Dream speech. One of the things that he said was, he talked about the fierce urgency of now. The fierce urgency of now. It is a day of action. It is a day of going to work. It is a day of doing something. It is a day of getting in the game. I challenge you to act, to do something for our country, to do something for Arkansas, and I pledge to walk right beside you as we accomplish these things. Thank you. God bless you.
Governor Asa Hutchinson. Governor, on behalf of the Arkansas Martin Luther King Jr. Commission, and I ask our commissioners to please continue standing to my immediate left. These are your commissioners for the Arkansas Martin Luther King Jr. Commission. Please give them a round of applause. On behalf of the King Commission, Governor, thank you for being a trailblazer and the 46th governor of the state of Arkansas. We enjoy you, we support you, we love you. And on behalf of the King Commission, we want you to enjoy this.
Thank you.
Also, Governor, we have also developed a Dream Keepers LEAD program, and this LEAD program teaches youth and young Arkansans throughout the state of Arkansas to come across the state of Arkansas and engage and encourage youth to matriculate in their endeavors and also to be ambassadors of peace. And on behalf of the Dream Keepers Award, we would like to present you one of our youth commissioners all the way from Conway, Arkansas, Ms. Maria Oates.
We just want to thank you for being a trailblazer and for doing everything you do for us, for the state of Arkansas. We look forward to having you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. This is very beautiful.
Several scholars in their writings about Dr. King noted that prayer was a way of motivating, affirming, reaffirming, empowering people in the context of the struggle for equal rights. It has been quoted that prayer was King's secret weapon in the civil rights movement, a key to its success as people found the strength to continue. Dr. King's prayers were influenced by the legacies of St. Francis of Assisi and nonviolence advocate Mahatma Gandhi. Dr. King was able to intersect into the civil rights movement Christians, Muslims, Jews, Catholics, and they all sang and prayed together. From the Birmingham jail where he was imprisoned as a participant in nonviolent demonstrations against segregation, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. wrote in longhand the words we are about to hear. The letters from the Birmingham jail were widely published and became an important text for the American civil rights movement. Please welcome the following as we recite the commemorative litany in honor of Dr. King. Our first presentation is by Honorable State Representative Kim Hammer.
Would you join me, please? We remember the conviction of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. that freedom is never voluntarily given by the oppressor. It must be demanded by the oppressed. Therefore, let us pray for courage and determination by those who are oppressed. We remember Dr. King's warning that a negative peace, which is the absence of tension, is less than a positive peace, which is the presence of justice. Therefore, let us pray that those who work for peace in our world may cry out first for justice.
Our next presentation is from Honorable Senator Jeremy Hutchinson.
We remember Martin's lament that in early days, the church was not merely a thermometer that recorded the ideas and principles of popular opinion. It was a thermostat that transformed the mores of society. Therefore, let us pray that no congregation of God's people be silent when faced with the corrupt societal norms.
Our next presentation is from Mr. Doyle Webb, current chairman of the Republican Party of Arkansas.
We remember Martin's hope that dark clouds of racial prejudice will soon pass away and the deep fog of misunderstanding will be lifted from our fear-drenched communities. And in some not too distant tomorrow, that the radiant stars of love and brotherhood will shine over our great nation with all their scintilling beauty. Therefore, in faith, let us commend ourselves and our work for justice to the goodness of the Almighty One. Amen.
Our final presentation is from Attorney General Leslie Rutledge.
We remember Martin's lament that in early days, the church was not merely a thermometer that recorded the ideas and principles of popular opinion. It was a thermostat that transformed the mores of society. Therefore, let us pray that no congregation of God's people be silent when faced with corrupt societal norms. We remember Martin telling us that we must use time creatively and the knowledge that the time is always right to do what is right. Therefore, let us pray that we take care of one of our more precious resources, time. Then I have been asked to take just a moment as Attorney General to talk about an issue that is important to me as Attorney General in my office and that I look forward to working with Mr. Scarborough, Sean Scarborough, and the King Commission on, and that's cyberbullying. Many of you adults in the room probably don't even know what cyberbullying is. Cyberbullying is using technology to intimidate and harass someone to make them feel inferior or embarrassed. And I look forward to working with the King Commission and partnering with them on this. Because parents, I'm going to implore you, our young folks know how to use that technology. So take this day of action and ask them how to use those smartphones. Educate yourselves so that way you can protect God's children with us. And you heard me repeat one of Dr. King's most precious quotes. And now I'm going to ask you to join me and to repeat after me. We're going to break it up into 3 pieces because when you walk away today, I want you to remember this quote. The time is always right to do what is right. So repeat after me. The time is always right to do what is right. Now let's say it together. The time is always right to do what is right. Thank you so much. I appreciate being with you all today.
As the Arkansas Martin Luther King Jr. Commission pauses to observe the 50th anniversary of Selma, Alabama, we will present 3 special observances commemorating the 50th anniversary of the 3 epic marches that took place from Selma to Montgomery, Alabama for voting rights. The first observance was the presentation of the Dreams Keeper Award presented to Honorable Governor Hutchinson for his efforts in making voting more accessible in all of Arkansas. The march from Selma to Montgomery is a 50-mile highway stretch, but a short walk for those who believe that change was possible. The route is memorialized as the Selma to Montgomery Voting Rights Trail. Please welcome Reverend Cecil Gibson and our Mistress of Ceremony, Tiffany Pettis, with artistic presentations as we remember a milestone in the civil rights movement, Selma.
Well, I don't know what will happen now. We've got some difficult days ahead. It really doesn't matter with me now because I've been to the mountaintop and I don't mind. Like anybody, I'd like to live a long life. Longevity has its place. I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will. He's allowed me to go up to the mountaintop and I've looked over. I've seen the promised land. Now, I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land. So I'm happy. I'm not worried about anything, and neither am I fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. But every now and then, I guess we all think realistically about that day when we will be victimized with what is life's final common denominator, that thing we call death. And every now and then, I think of my own death and I think of my own funeral. I don't think of it in a morbid sense. But every now and then I ask myself, what is it that I won't say? And I leave the words with you. If any of you around when I have to meet that day, I don't want a long funeral. If you got somebody to deliver the eulogy, ask him not to talk too long. Tell him not to mention that I have the Nobel Peace Prize. That isn't important. Ask him not to mention that I have 300 or 400 other awards. That isn't important. Please ask him not to mention where I went to school. But I'd like somebody to say on that day that Martin Luther King Jr. tried to give his life serving others. Now I want you to be able to say that day. And I did try in my life to feed those who were hungry. I want you to be able to say that I did try in my life to clothe those who were naked. And I tried to be right on the war questions. And yes, if you want to say that I was a drum major, say that I was a drum major for peace. Say that I was a drum major for righteousness. And say that I was a drum major for justice. Yes, my brothers and sisters, I won't have any money to leave behind. I won't have the fine and luxurious things in life to leave behind. But I just want to leave a committed life behind, and that's all I want to say. If I can help somebody as I pass along, if I can cheer him with the word or with the song, if I can show somebody he is traveling wrong, then my living will not be in vain. If I can do my duty as a Christian, if I can bring salvation to a world once wronged, if I can spread the message as the Master taught, then my living will not be in vain. But there is something that I want to say to you today, my friends, that in spite of the difficulties and the frustrations of the moment, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up, live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream. Now I have a dream that one day, down in Alabama with its governor's lips dripping with the words of interposition and nullification, right there, little black boys and girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and girls and walk together, sisters and brothers. I have a dream. I have a dream that one day my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream. I have a dream that one day every valley shall be exalted, every hill and mountain shall be made low, the rough places made plain, and the crooked places made straight. And the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together. And this is our hope. This is the faith that I go back to the south, and with this faith, we will be able to hew out of the mountains of despair a stone of hope. With this faith, we will be able to transform the jangling discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. With this faith, we will be able to work together, to pray together, to struggle together, to go to jail together, and to stand up for freedom together, knowing that we will be free one day. This will be the day when all of God's children will be able to sing with new meaning, my country, tears of thee. Sweet land of liberty of thee I sing. Land where my father died. Land of the pilgrim's pride. From every mountainside let freedom reign. And if we're to be a great nation, this must become true. So let freedom reign from every village and every hamlet. Let freedom reign from the snow-capped Rockies of Colorado. Let freedom reign from the heightening Alleghenies of Pennsylvania. Let freedom reign from Stone Mountains of Georgia, from Lookout Mountains of Tennessee, from every mountainside. Let freedom reign. When this happens, when we allow freedom to reign from every village and every hamlet, from every state and every city, we will be able to speed up that day when all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands, singing the words of that old Negro spiritual, free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we're free at last. God bless you.
He rode a bus from New York to Galveston, where he experienced firsthand the evils of racial segregation. As an immigrant who believed that America was the place for freedom for everyone, he confessed he could not understand what he was seeing. He left Galveston. As an athlete, he went to Montana State University, where he excelled in track and field in the field efforts. But even there, he experienced that his friend, an African-American man from the football team, could not enjoy all of the privileges of all of the rest of the athletes in Montana. He went on to become a famous actor even before he starred in The Young and Restless beginning in 1973. He is a 5-time Emmy nominee for his roles in The Young and the Restless, which he won in 1998, and obviously I didn't have to tell you that. He was nominated 11 times for the Soap Opera Digest Outstanding Leading Actor Award, and I probably didn't need to tell you that either. In 1987, I probably did need to tell you this. He was appointed along with Henry Kissinger, Paul Volcker, Steffi Graf, Alexander Haig, and Catherine Graham to the German-American Advisory Board. This is his first visit to Arkansas. And we are both fortunate and privileged that his first visit is part of the King Commission's celebration of a Day of Service. Please welcome, and don't right away run up to the front. Please welcome Eric Braden.
be damned. I wondered what to talk about when I came here. The reason I accepted the invitation, to be quite frank with you, is because I've been very impressed all these years with what Dr. Martin Luther King meant. I come from a country that unleashed two of the most cataclysmic wars mankind has ever seen. As a consequence of the Second World War, nearly 70 million people died. That is hard to wrap one's head around. I'm a little older, I'm young, still restless, but I'm old enough to remember where I was born. I was born in a city over which they threw 500,000 bombs. A city that was 96% destroyed. That was one city in Germany. That same percentage applied to most cities in Germany. I was born in 1941. My first 4 years in life were spent in the basement. I shall read to you now a speech that I gave a little while ago about what it meant to be German. I began to ponder the question what it's like to be a German or German American. How do I define my Germanness? In personal terms, I have early memories of bombings and fires, of having frantically be carried into the basement, of fear that gripped everyone at the sound of approaching Allied bomber squadrons who would inevitably unleash their destructive fury on villages and cities like mine, only to leave burning farms and screaming animals in flames in their wake. I have memories of being hoisted onto the shoulders of my teenage brother so that I could see the city of Hamburg aflame after one of those devastating firebombings that left the city an inferno in which tens of thousands of civilians perished in one night. I have memories of thousands of homeless and hungry people descending like desperate vultures from the devastated cities like Hamburg and Kiel onto the countryside to frantically dig for only leftover potatoes or kernels of wheat. I have memories of Christmas Eves when my brothers and I had to recite poetry to the local Santa Claus and sing O Tannenbaum and Silent Night and Holy Night. And only then could we get our present, a pair of shoes perhaps, which would have to last to next Christmas. I have memories of makeshift ice hockey games on frozen ponds and soccer games with pig bladders because we couldn't afford a real ball. Memories of a beloved father suddenly dying, of long bicycle excursions through a beautiful countryside, of hard work on farms and school benches, of teachers who had come back from the Russian front with no leg or one arm and great bitterness. Memories of long hiking excursions and singing My Fatherland, My Father was a wondrous man, and I feel the same. Of secret rendezvous and adolescent kisses with my first love, Rosalie. That was before Mickey. Of my mother saying, we can't afford that. when my brothers and I were coveting a pair of soccer shoes in the store window. When I think of my hard-working, proud mother and father, who experienced the two most cataclysmic and devastating wars in the history of mankind, and who each time had to start with nothing. I remember dancing school, and waltzing, and doing the tango, and Elvis Presley, and Louis Satchmo Armstrong. And I remember leaving it all behind one day in May when I was 18, while standing aboard the ocean liner Hanseatic, waving goodbye to my family, while the orchestra was playing Boy Come Back Soon. I remember the first sighting of the Statue of Liberty, the skyline of New York City, the sweltering heat, the frenetic hustle and bustle of white and black and brown-skinned people, of taking the Greyhound bus through southern cities where they had separate toilets and drinking fountains for whites and blacks, and where a genteel southern lady expressed her love for castles on the Rhine and Apfelstrudel and asked me what I thought about Hitler, and I said I didn't and hadn't. I remember fulfilling childhood dreams of being a cowboy when I was in Montana and going to university there, and one day in a lecture in philosophy being asked in front of the whole class how it was possible that a country that had produced Goethe and Schiller and Beethoven and Schubert could produce Hitler and concentration camps. I was 18 then and couldn't answer. I remember the experience that left an indelible mark in my brain, and heretofore innocent German heart. I was in Los Angeles in a movie theater where I saw a documentary called Mein Kampf. I went to see it because the title promised something about Germany, and I was homesick. It showed scenes of concentration camps, goose-stepping soldiers, of Hitler kissing babies, corpses piled high in makeshift mass graves in concentration camps, of dead German soldiers standing frozen in the wind and snow-swept steppes of Russia. It showed American soldiers liberating walking skeletons from camps. It was then that I lost my heretofore, bear with me. It was then I had lost my innocence, and no one was there to explain or quiet my deeply felt sense of anger and betrayal and shame. Had my beloved mother and father been part of that? They just couldn't have been. And yet I remember sending letters filled with anger and bitterness and inexplicable disappointment to my mother. My father died when I was 12 years old. I remember later playing for a Jewish soccer team called the Maccabees, and I fought hard for them, perhaps in the vain hope of atoning for the sins committed by some members of my parents' generation. I met Jews from Hamburg, a village in Hessen from Cologne, Jews who had left in the 30s and who had seen more German in their old-fashioned ways and attitudes than I did. I met Jews who accepted me because I was too young, and Jews who did not accept me because I was German, and Jews who talked nostalgically of their favorite pre-war soccer teams of Frankfurt and Dresden and Hamburg, or reminisced bitterly about the insidious ways of anti-Semitism. I met a German who called me a traitor because I played for a Jewish team, and I remember an Israeli teammate who talked like a racist about blacks and was suspicious of me because I was German. I remember my first agent in Hollywood, a Jew, who was kind-hearted and helpful and gave me my first break in this tough business of acting. I recall Americans coming up to me when I played Captain Dietrich on the Rat Patrol. Long time ago. Saying to me, I wish you Germans had won the war and we wouldn't have to worry about the damn Russians. I remember fighting with producers on how to play my role in the rapid role. They wanted an eye patch and a limp, so as to perpetuate the stereotypical image of German soldier. And I insisted on playing the Rommel-like figure as a human being, with dignity, because the German soldier of the Wehrmacht who came back from Russia, from the Russian front, was decent and brave and tough, and fought for his country just like any other soldier. I remember a conversation with my fellow actor from Germany, Kurt Jürgens, on the way to the theater in New York, where I played his son in a Broadway play. And he thought I should go back to Germany because in America I would play nothing but those damn Nazi roles. And I said, it may take a while, but I was determined to help destroy their caricature. I was determined to show that we were human beings with all the strengths and frailties, with all the feelings and thoughts of any human being. I remember my son coming home from grade school one day and telling me that he had been called a Nazi and asking me what that meant. And I remember my trying to explain something I'd taken years to study and understand to a little boy. I remember reading Schirer's The Third Reich and Bullock's Study in Tyranny and Speer's Inside the Third Reich. Those were all books written about that damn period. And the best book about that fateful period by Sebastian Haffner called Anecdotes to Hitler. I remember Simon Wiesenthal doing an interview saying that the actual perpetrators of atrocities numbered about 100,000. And Henry Kissinger saying, under no circumstances is the post-war German generation to be held responsible for Auschwitz. And then the wall came down. And Americans came up to me with genuine feelings in their hearts and congratulated me, and it felt good to be German. And then my non-American friends from Europe and South America patted me on the shoulder and spoke with admiration and respect of the German national soccer team playing the World Cup in Italy and winning it. And then we became world champions, and it was almost all too good to be true. And then came some editorials in the newspapers about the renaissance of German power and the caricature of Helmut Kohl as the new Hitler, and the many scathing remarks made by the cheap English press and character assassinations by Margaret Thatcher and her cabinet, all warning of German power whilst bemoaning the loss of their own. And as a German, I wanted to shout to the world, when will you ever stop talking about those damn 12 years? When will you ever give us credit for more than 40 peaceful democratic years during which Germany has been an exemplary democracy, a loyal ally of Western alliance, an unwavering friend of both America and Israel, a patient initiator through its Ostpolitik with Communist East, a country that has opened its arms to more politically disenfranchised, the persecuted and hungry, than any other except America. When will you ever talk about and acknowledge the untold contributions made by German immigrants who toiled for you, America? As carpenters, farmers, mechanics, longshoremen, doctors, nurses, coal miners, machinists, lawyers, surgeons, generals, teachers, scientists. When, I ask? And that question needs to be asked about black people in America. And that is why I see a parallel. And that is why it is important not only to show athletes and rap singers, but to show the black scientists and teachers and nurses and doctors. And people who have worked their fingers to their bones for this country, who have fought in foreign wars for this country. It needs to be fully recognized. And you need to have full equal rights. I then continue and said, it will happen when German immigrants and Americans of German descent start talking about it, and when we start addressing the issues that concern us, when we have dialogue amongst ourselves and with those who mistrust us. When we open our hearts and extend our hands to each other and to those who are wronged by another generation, when we become aware of our profound contribution to the success in freedom and democracy that is America, and that applies to you as well. For that purpose, a few friends of mine and I created the German American Cultural Society, Los Angeles, and we want to preserve the histories of German Americans and their immigrant ancestors, be they Catholic or Protestant or Jew. Our formerly divided Germany has become one again. Let us not forget Ronald Reagan and Bush, Baker and Mitterrand, Kohl and Genscher, Gorbachev and Shevardnadze, who made the seemingly impossible a reality, and the thousands of brave East Germans who courageously cried out for freedom, as you and Martin Luther King have cried out for freedom. Because of our historical legacy, we Germans have a profound responsibility to be tolerant of others and to cooperate as equal partners in this world of many peoples. Today, let us remember the many positive contributions the Germans have made to mankind. What does it mean to be German? It means that we are part of the community of mankind with a specific and complex heritage, and I'm proud of that heritage. Thank you. We're here today to celebrate a remarkable man. And he brought about change peacefully. That's extraordinary. That is almost unheard of in the annals of human history. I grew up as a Protestant, didn't go to church much. After the war, one became very cynical. I didn't believe in any of it anymore. But there are certain things of Christianity that stuck with me, and that is to love our fellow human beings.
Well, we do have token of our appreciation to Mr. Braden. This looks like an Oscar, doesn't it?
Very similar.
And a certificate of appreciation for speaking at the annual King Holiday commemoration. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, on the count of three, we're going to say, we love you, Eric Braden. 1, 2, 3.
Morning, everybody. Was that not awesome? Fantastic. Mr. Braden, it was wonderful to hear your remarks. And Phil Kaplan will know this story, but I think, Eric, you might enjoy it. One of the greatest federal jurists ever appointed to the federal bench was a great Arkansan. He was a first-generation German. In fact, he spoke German when he was on the bench in the Eastern District of Arkansas. Jacob Trieber was appointed by Teddy Roosevelt to the federal bench and honored this state and honored German-American heritage, which was so prominent early in Arkansas's history. So thank you for your remarks. I want to say something to all the parents and all the kids. Dr. King was a remarkable leader and a remarkable mentor. And he had a speech that was one of my favorites that I talked about earlier today in 1967 and in 1968, just prior to his assassination. I call it the parable of the street sweeper. And let me tell you something, Dr. King's message of aspiration and doing the best that you can with your life, no matter where you're cast in life, is what it's all about. And Dr. King said, if your place in life is to just be a street sweeper, then you be the best street sweeper in the world. And you sweep that street like Michelangelo painted, like Beethoven composed music, like Shakespeare wrote poetry. You be the best that you can be. And this day is a day for all of us to be the best that we can be. And to the parents, you mentor these kids. You raise them in Dr. King's vision of aspiration. You demand our public schools teach our kids. And for you kids, you set high goals. You be people of character. You be leaders in our community. And you make us old people look good in the next generation. Thanks for having me.
All right, thank you so much. And that was Honorable Congressman French Hill. Well, the Arkansas Martin Luther King Jr. Commission is pleased to have our commissioners, and at this time, we are pleased to have an awards presentation by Commissioner Janice Waddy and Dr. Kermit Parks.
Thank you, Commissioner Scarborough. It is a pleasure to give the award to the Ralph Bunche Development Center. I suspect I was chosen to help give this because I actually remember Ralph Bunche. Ralph Bunche was an American political scientist, academic and diplomat who received the 1950 Nobel Prize for his late 1940s meditation in Palestine. He was the first African American and person of color to be so honored in the history of the prize. Can you hear me now? I'll start over. Ralph Bunche was an American political science, academic and diplomat who received the 1950 Nobel Peace Prize for his late 1940s mediation in Palestine. He was the first African American and person of color to be so honored in the history of the prize. He was involved in the formation and administration of the United Nations. In 1963, he was awarded the Medal of Freedom by President John F. Kennedy. There is a neighborhood association named in his honor right here in Benton, Arkansas. Today, the Arkansas Martin Luther King Jr. Commission proudly presents a humanitarian award to the Ralph Bunche Community Development Center for hosting annual events in the Benton area that honor the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Congratulations.
Our next presentation is from Commissioner DeWitt Smith.
Thank you, Tiffany. The Benton Area Chamber of Commerce is a nonprofit, pro-business volunteer organization that provides a voice in the business community. By providing a myriad of opportunities for further growth of the business community, the Benton Area Chamber of Commerce also strives to keep the business community very involved in every phase of life in the Benton area, always keeping an eye toward making Benton and the surrounding areas a better place for all its citizens. Benton is known statewide for its volunteerism and commitment to helping businesses in the Benton community succeed. At this time, we are proud to present the Arkansas Martin Luther King Jr. Commission Economic Development Award to the Benton Area Chamber of Commerce.
After the program, we'd like to encourage you to attend the MLK Day Parade sponsored by the Ralph Bunche Community Development Corporation. Starts at 3:00 p.m. Make King Holiday a full day. And at this time, we'll have another presentation by Commissioner Lupe Peña Valadez.
As a local, family-owned dealership, community involvement is at the very core
of the business model at Everett Buick GMC. Everett Buick GMC contributes to several worthwhile community organizations and service projects. This family-owned business has been named the top GM dealership, not in Arkansas, but in the United States. The great management and staff of Everett Buick GMC take pride in taking care of their customers, and they do so consistently. Because of this, today it is an honor that the Arkansas Martin Luther King Jr. Commission is pleased to present the 2015 Community Service Award to Everett Buick GMC.
Today's honorees were escorted by the Miss Teen Promise pageant contestants, Little Miss Teen Promise Kylie Davis, Miss Junior Teen Promise Sydney Terry, Miss Teen Promise Princess Amaya Smith, and Miss Teen Promise Kiera Holloway. Thank you to the Teen Promise Scholarship Pageant under the direction of Miss Evangeline Parker Guest, assisting today's girls in becoming more positive, poised, professional, productive, and positive young ladies. Let's give all of our recipients and their escorts a round of applause. On March 21st, 1965, it was a Sunday. Approximately 3,200 marchers departed for Montgomery, Alabama. They walked 12 miles per day and slept in the fields. By the time they reached the capital, Selma, 4 days later, on March 25th, their strength had swelled to around 25,000 people. The events at Selma, Alabama helped increase public support for the cause, and that year the U.S. Congress passed the Voting Rights Act of 1965. This year we will reach two milestones in civil rights history: the 60th anniversary of the Montgomery bus boycott and the 60th anniversary of the events that set in motion the Voting Rights Act of 1965. The events begin in a little town called Selma. And today we are honored to have living civil rights legend, Dr. Annie Abrams, with us. Dr. Abrams lives in the Central High School District. Her home Dr. Abrams lives in the Central High School Historic District, and her home is now open as a museum showcasing her collection of civil rights memorabilia. Mrs. Abrams was also instrumental in presenting the very first MLK Parade in Little Rock, as well as the first event at the state capitol on King Holiday honoring Dr. King. Ms. Abrams was present 50 years ago at the first program honoring Dr. King after he was assassinated. The program was presented by then Governor Winthrop Rockefeller. She has served several years as the honorary chair of the Arkansas Martin Luther King Jr. Commission, and her niece Jocelyn Rainey will now present us with the Unity poem. So please welcome her.
I am the American flag. I wish to speak to all the members of my country who are anxious, fearful, angry, hurt, and worried. I submit we can learn a great deal if we can learn to listen to the wisdom of our American flag. I will speak of a long life. I felt the vigor of wind on my multicolored face when I unfroze my 13 stars over 200 years ago. I looked down to see horses with clattering hooves, pulling rattling carriages over cobblestone streets. Since then, I've looked up to see silver jets streak across the sky, and I've unfroze my pride on unsummoned ships. I've known 43 presidents, and I've lived long, traveled far, and I, the American flag, have something to say to you today. I was there when our nation was born. I've earned the right to speak. The price that was paid for my freedom of speech is a price few remember or can comprehend. Most forget, but I still see those bright, beautiful young men who died for me at Pork Chop Hill, Verdun, Normandy, Iwo Jima, Pearl Harbor, Okinawa, and the Coral Sea. Yes, they've died for me, and I've wrapped my love around them and draped my honor over their caskets at graves, tropics, deserts, and seas. Those men who died for me were buried in the Landers Field of France and many other places under the sun. I fly proudly over the graves at all these places, praying that wars might end forever. Never forgetting them, I rise every morning to watch hour after hour over the graves of our most finest men, whose lives were shortened, but whose service was longer than we can measure. Yes, I've lived long, traveled far, and endured much. 1 million or more lives were sacrificed for my right to speak. Now I shall break the long silence. I shall speak. Listen, I shall speak of my land, today, tomorrow, her tragedies, her triumphs, her sins, and her worries. I will speak of my world. My heart weeps for all nations, all men, all women, all children of every race, creed, and color. I, the American flag, say, be proud of your country. There's so much about her that is beautiful, compassionate, gentle, powerful, but yet tender. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Yes, I've been stained, torn, and spat upon by my dictators for 200 years. Still, I'm proud of my country. I say be proud that you're an American. Be proud, be confident, and be bold. You can do anything that you want to do. You can climb any mountain. You can make it in America. Be humble enough to know where your grace comes from. Oh, glory, I'm often called. What is my glory? My glory is the freedom that I give to every law-respecting man, woman, and child. The 10 Commandments, the Sermon on the Mount, the Word of God, are the foundational stones of time-testing morality. Remove these foundational stones and suffer future shock and loss of freedom. Be humble enough to know without God my stars will fade, my glory will depart, and your freedom will erode and die. I am the American flag. I'm your flag of freedom. I live in all men's hearts who are yearning to laugh, to love, to play, to pray, to marry, and have children. I have called out to my nations. Oh, come to my shores and my sides, all ye that are tired and oppressed and poor and yearning to be free. Oh, come, and I will guarantee you liberty. I say to my people, be proud, be humble, and my last words, be renewed. Yes, renew your faith in God. Renew your pledge to do His word. Think of it. Yes, the price of freedom is faith in God. I ask you, are you a part of my country's problem? Well, become a part of my country's solution. Yes, I, the American flag, have endured much. In spite of the attack made during the night, the Star-Spangled Banner was waving over the fort the next morning. It was tattered and torn, but it was still there. So please, don't say that my flag is just a symbol. It means much more to you and me than that. The red thread, the white light, the true blue, it's the soul of your country. So now your pledge renewed. I was born an American. No other country on the face of the earth will ever hold the spell over me that America holds. Between the Atlantic and the Pacific lies a magnificently borrowed land, rugged mountains, rolling plains and deserts, mighty rivers, endless forests, and placid lakes. Your pioneers have carved out in the wilderness of our liberty the grandeur of this wilderness. They have bequeathed to you the responsibility of this land, and until the day you die, you should shoulder it. Many times I remember awakening in the morning to the arousing sounds of a riel. We stand on the thresholds of a new day, a new age, a new era. Do you feel it? Let me continue to fly high. Rise up and make your country great. Please let freedom ring. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Whitey. Keep up with the Arkansas Martin Luther King Jr. Commission. We ask that you like us on Facebook to see what we have planned for 2015. And we ask that you log on to our website at www.arkingdream.org. I'm Tiffany Pettis, your MC, and as we commemorate Selma, we'd like to close with We Shall Overcome. I ask that Miss Abrams come up and join us. We ask that you stand and help us for one verse, and then we'd like you to stay for lunch.
And pictures.
And pictures with the legendary Eric Martin. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. Deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. Thank you so much. Have a great MLK.